What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Omnic Lab episode 142. Coming in a little late this week, but not without reason. We'll get to that here in a minute. But welcome back. This week, we're going to be talking about the Chengdu 222 and the 321 this week that they've been running with Pharmacy. And my name's Rob. I'm all the way in Japan on a nice Monday evening. Joining me from the brand spanking new Eastern Standard Time Zone, we have Andres Gomez all the way over in near Atlanta, Georgia, where his Rain Boys have been doing some on and off work this week. What's up, man?
Ayo, how's it going? I'm finally feeling a little bit better today. Last week was a little bit rough. I had like everything thrown at me. I don't know like what happened. I started at a new job at as a tutor. So I've been teaching a lot of kids and I've been having to deal with a lot of kids, which I haven't done before. And I think that definitely my immune system wasn't ready to confront them straight head-ons. But I'm back. I'm still alive. Feeling a lot better, and I'm ready to talk about this Chengdu 222. One of the most fun compositions to watch in Overwatch League lately, and we're here to dissect it.
Yeah, those kids are definitely giving you more than their homework.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I totally understand. I had a pretty crazy week this last week with gearing up with a couple other things going on in our avenue. Plus, my wife was kind of under the weather a bit this week. So I'm glad we can finally get the show out for you, whether it be a couple days late or not. But it's going to be coming out on that weekly schedule within 10 days, rather. The Omnic Lab 10-day week, as we say. But yeah, joining us with this comp this week is a few announcements. So the normal announcement, which is game night is on the 29th, the last Friday of March. Please show up. And if you need more details, head over to the Discord. And a quick announcement again. We're on Spotify, and the link is in the chat for you guys. Please go check it out. Help us out. Listen there. Listen wherever you can. But especially if you like Spotify and you have friends that listen to everything on Spotify and won't do anything else, now we have a link for you to send them. Additionally, we have our sponsorship with the one and only Top Score Solutions, which I will read the copy now. Omnic Lab is presented in large part by the Top Score Solutions, an esports-oriented community for business education and analytics. If you guys want to develop a business, service, org, or even just create some content about gaming and esports, they're here to help. Their flagship podcast is also out called the Esports Business Podcast. You can find it on normal avenues. Additionally, they also run a blog at topscoresolutions.com that you can check out there, and also be sure to join their Discord community, as well as check out their website for just any other information that you're looking for. And our other partner is Omnic Meta. No new updates from Switch this week, but he is coming out with some new stuff, likely in the wings, with the Overwatch League statistics that he's been gearing up now that we have a full stage under the belt, I guess you could say, for statistics, right? But Andres was the one who came up with this idea, so I'd like to have him kick us off in what we're looking at here for the Chengdu Hunters, because this is your baby, man.
Yeah. Well, before we go into that, I did want to talk about our new patron perk that we're trying to introduce.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, let's talk about that. This is really cool.
This idea kind of came to me because I've been doing it with a few other people, and it's actually worked really well. And if you guys know, if you're a patron of the show, one of the perks is that you can send in a VOD for review. And we've reviewed a couple of VODs, but I think that the experience has been a little bit disconnected because, you play the game that day, then you send the VOD, then we don't get to it for a couple of days. By the time we review the VOD and we send it back to you, maybe, that game is not fresh in your mind.
Right.
And you don't get a lot of interaction. But I've actually been sitting down with some people and just kind of coaching them as they play. And I think that works a lot better for both parties. And you guys can get a lot more from it. So I think that from now on, we're going to make VOD reviews into coaching sessions. If you are a $2.50 Patreon per episode, you'll be able to participate in the coaching sessions once per month. We'll just set up a schedule. We'll sit down for an hour, and we can either go through your VODs of matches that you've done before that you want to go through, or we can just sit down and play together. Like, I'll watch you play. I'll guide you through the things that I think you can improve on. We'll have a conversation about it, much more friendly, much more personable, I think, this way. And I think that you guys would truly enjoy this. I have been enjoying it with the people that I've been doing it. I've actually been doing it with my girlfriend, a couple of friends, And this one of their kids, I've done it with, and it's been really really cool. So I'm hoping to bring that experience over to you guys that have been supporting the show. So if you are interested in taking advantage of this service, feel free to reach out to me on Discord or email the podcast, and we can set up a time. Um, if you are a masters and above player, the amount of advice that I can probably give you is going to be a little bit more limited. But, if you still want a second person to sit there and kind of watch you play, give you some advice, or just have a friendly talk, or you just want to hang out with me, no, I can still do that.
And this is not limited to Andres' skill set only. Again, we're both here all the time. So if you guys are, low diamond and below, I can help you out as well. If that's what you're looking for. If you're looking for Andres, again, schedules may be an issue. But for those of you that really like those or have those crazy work schedules and you can only really make it work on like a third shift or something, or maybe late night, early morning as your best slots, I'm your guy because I'm pretty much always available at those slots if I'm not running stuff with our Oceanic team that I'm helping run right now or playing in, depending on the day. But yeah, just keep us posted if you're in those things and those slots of the Patreon. I'm gonna update it so that you guys can see the new perks. Patreon updated again their whole overview, so I'm gonna go probably look through some things this week and kind of set it up. We had some new things dinking around in there, as well as some existing patrons now shifting around their pledges for financial reasons. So yeah, feel free to do that and check it out, the Patreon, and see what perks we have there. Let's talk about the comp though. So I'm going to set the stage of what we're talking about first, for those of you that don't watch a whole lot of Overwatch League or even understand what the composition means or does. And then we're going to move forward into having Andres kind of break it down a little bit line by line, and then I'll have some commentary to go with that. So the first comp we're going to be talking about is the primary one that we really like and we feel is more approachable to the general public of players at all skill ranks, meaning that despite having a lot of the mechanical difficulties you may see with other compositions, it's a little bit easier for you to kind of grasp in this format, because 2-2-2 is the most approachable format for players to understand. It's the most ingrained in all metas. So what is the core of the meta? Well, the core of the meta revolves around 3 heroes, as per usual. A tank, a support, and you guessed it, a DPS. So those 3 heroes are Pharah, Mercy, and Hammond. And alongside those 3 heroes, you will also be running a Zenyatta or an Ana, depending on the point and depending on the skill. Maybe your team, if you're not running an Overwatch League. Good news, because you have some flexibility here. If you have a friend that's really bad at Ana and is good at Zen, bingo, you have your comp. The other hero is also going to be D.Va for your second tank, of course, because D.Va is the most flexible of all of the tanks and has verticality, and Sombra, which is the one that has the counterplay, the verticality, the I win Q button of EMP, and you get the picture. Okay, so this is the composition that we're going to be starting with. It's Pharmacy plus Sombra plus Wrecking Ball and D.Va, and then your choice of Ana or Zenyatta. Andres, take us away with why this works.
So this comp is super interesting and super, super fun to watch. We've seen kind of variants of this comp come to life in Overwatch League before with other teams, but it's really Chengdu that have taken it to the next level. They love this composition, and they not only play it on control maps, which is usually when this kind of style has been emerging, but they've been playing it in a bunch of other maps to great success. Actually, they've taken wins from Vancouver Titans, they've taken wins from Atlanta. I think that no team kind of sees it coming, and granted, they're really good players at the heroes that they're playing. It's a composition that is very versatile and can do a lot, but the playstyle is very different from GOATs. So it is worth kind of talking about it a little bit, because it's different Overwatch. This is not the Overwatch we've been used to seeing for the past like 2 months or so. The first thing that I want to say is that to me, this composition resembles like a tornado. You're just swirling around the enemy, running circles around them. You're never static. And the one thing that I'm going to say is you never play the front line. And this sometimes is a concept that is hard to grasp for people, but you completely ignore your front line. You're not trying to go head on with Reinhardt, or try to take the Winston out, or the Orisa. You're not trying to like attack through the front line. Instead, you're just trying to kind of surround them from all angles. Ooh, I got my coffee over here. Yeah, you're trying to surround them from all angles, basically. And these heroes that you're using are especially adept at doing that. All of them have incredible movement abilities, and all of them are really good at just getting any angle on the map. Hammond can just, swing around the map, jump on top of them. Diva can follow it or press any hero that is kind of like on
Mm-hmm.
its own. Farah will be flying on top of them and just peppering missiles all day long. And Sombra usually just appears behind them. So basically, you have like no free angle. And it's a composition that really put goats at odds because goats has almost no mobility and they're very vulnerable when they're walking sort of towards the point, right? When they haven't bunkered down and their speed boost is down, especially now that the speed boost is getting nerfed. This composition has a lot of time and a lot of leeway to just get a ton of damage inside. Do you want to add anything over here before we get more specific?
Yeah, before we get specific, you may be wondering why there's an odd one out. Why is Zenyatta and Ana mixed in with this entirely full mobility comp? And by full mobility, I mean mobile vertically and mobile horizontally. And they're very free when doing all of those things, as well as mitigating damage by just avoiding things, by getting in and out with mobility that moves you quickly, like grappling hook, like rocket boosters on Diva, like I don't know, translocating and teleporting out. You have the spacing tool from Farah, and of course, Mercy can just dash clear across the map. So we're going to be touching on that, but just keep in mind, when you're getting value from Zenyatta or getting value from Ana, the scope and the orbs are where you're really getting a lot of your benefits. And you don't have to be in the fray to do those things like these other heroes do. You have the benefit of basically being off on your own. And when you're going up against other compositions that are not running something in the mirror or basically copying your composition, or even if they are, a lot of times the mobility targets are going to go for the enemy version of you, or they're going to be going for low mobility targets. They can't just jump on you. And even if they can, a lot of the times along the way of getting from point A to point B, you're going to be able to eliminate them. But I think the most important thing for you to take away from this entire discussion for the day is what Andres said at the very top. This is non-traditional gameplay. This is like the anti-hero Overwatch, okay? Like this is your Venom to Spider-Man, okay? Like the Joker to your Batman. Like these are anti-heroes out here, okay? You're not going in and sitting behind a barrier and moving around the map and sticking together as a team. You are sticking together as a team, but like everyone's kind of ping-ponging across the map doing their own thing, and then all at once kind of converging and then leaving. Like it's very much like this amoeba that keeps like splitting and then coming together and splitting and coming together. You're not really all together at any given time. You're just moving and maneuvering a lot.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk a lot about that.
Before we get into individual heroes, let's talk about that a little bit, that amoeba movement that you were talking about there.
Yeah.
Because you do want to be poking from all sides, and every hero in this composition is very well equipped to be able to get in and get out. Poke in, poke out. Poke in, poke out. Hammond's especially good at doing this. You can just go in full speed, boop people around, and you don't even have to like stay there for that long. Maybe you shoot a couple rounds until your shield's kind of like running low, and then you get out of there, rinse and repeat, basically. You're relying a lot on health packs around the map. In fact, this composition has been played a lot before without a second healer, with Mercy just being the single healer for the Pharah, and then everyone else basically just fence for themselves because they can. And you usually drop your healer for like a Tracer, sometimes a Widowmaker that can just sit in the back and, do shots safely. You have to keep in mind that this composition is mainly going against goats at the moment. Sometimes you might find yourself going against the mirror. I think that a dive composition can sometimes be a little rough. We haven't seen that in the Overwatch League. Actually, every team is kind of afraid of going dive because the second you go dive, the other team kind of just go goats, and then you're at disadvantage anyway. But that's like next level gameplay. When we're talking about the ladder, things are a little bit different. Your enemy team might be more adamant about swapping or so, but because you're going against goats, you actually get to play a lot of heroes really greedily. Like for example, a Zenyatta with almost no frontline, right? Like that sounds like madness, but it works in this composition because you usually have nobody that can push your Zenyatta, right? When you're playing goats, you have nobody that can just dive that Zen. If you're gonna use the speed boost to chase all the way up to the Zen, you're probably giving a lot of space and ground, and you're letting the enemy team surround you even more. So that's why Anna or Sen works in this composition. Not to mention that the tool set that they bring, Zenyatta bringing the Discord Orb to soften targets and adding damage itself, while also being able to bring a heal that works with this composition, because not every healer works here. And let's talk about that a little bit, why Zenyatta and Anna do work in it. Mercy is almost a requirement. You want the Mercy with your Pharah almost 90% of the time, and she's basically like bound to Pharah. Those two are like one on its own, basically. And then
And
you
if
got
she's not bound to Pharah, she's bound to something else damage boosting it.
yeah. But usually that is the Pharah. Very rarely you're trying to go with somebody else unless she's dead and you have no rest or something. But yeah. Zenyatta and Anna bring a huge tool set. You get Discord Orb, you get Nano Boost, you get Grenade, which I should mention should be used almost exclusively offensively. You're trying to get nades on the enemy team as much as you can so your DPS can just get in there, finish them off real quick. There's nothing more devastating than getting 3 or 4 heroes in goats with a nade. They're basically screwed at that time. Like your team can just go in. Pharah has free reign. Sombra can pick him from the back. That's like go time, baby. When you see those nades, you go in.
Yeah, and a quick shout out to Shazir giving us 1,000 bits live on the show this week, as well as a great name, Yuckamucka, who basically subbed on Twitch Prime via our Twitch stream. We really appreciate that and give you guys a shout out anytime it happens on the show.
Thank you, guys.
Additionally, I wanna highlight something that's really interesting about this comp, where it bends and breaks on the aspect of disruption. And it's not just because of the mobility, it's because of the displacement. You can double down on displacements by using your Wrecking Ball to knock things around and in ways where they're more vulnerable or where they're moving into a favorable positioning and you're denying it. And then you can compound that with the Diva Charge by basically using the ball and then following up with the Diva Charge or doing one or the other. And in addition, both of these two things can set up into the other using an ultimate, a la a Diva detonation of the self-destruct or a Hammond dropping down an entire minefield. And then, furthermore, you have the big coup d'etat of all of this, which is the EMP, setting up anything. So you have all of these little factors, and then with the Pharaoh just raining down damage-boosted rockets, she's gaining in a meta where people are grouping up and gaining lots of healing and kind of sitting on the point. You're basically just getting free ultimate charge that's damage boosted faster than you ever could before because you're hitting things with splash damage, getting your barrages, and even if they can shut you down, it doesn't matter because you're going to initiate by shutting something down with a hack, an EMP, a displacement, a Diva Bomb, and basically forcing them and funneling the enemy team the entire time. It doesn't matter that you're 5v6 half the time without your Zenyatta or your Ana initiating. You're basically initiating with a hack, denying a barrier, throwing a grenade, and it's just like every single thing that you're doing is an shutdown movement in the composition, if that makes sense. You have all of these different triggers for a fight, and you're basically having the initiative to pull the trigger in every case.
Yeah, especially this composition just punishes low mobility. It's definitely
exactly
catered towards or against the goats. It can work against some other stuff, but it's definitely at its best against very immobile comps. That's what is the best at right now. It's like the complete opposite to
it's
immobile.
Like the evolved dive, I guess you could say.
Yeah, in a way it is.
In a way.
Yeah, in a way it is. Let's talk a little bit more about individual heroes and how they fit into the composition and what you should keep in mind with them. Let's start with Pharah, because Pharah, it's a key component in the composition. Not only is she the main damage, she's also going to be one of the main sources of frustration and distraction for the enemy team. If you guys take a look at some of the Chengdu Hunters games, granted, Jinmu, the DPS player that has been playing Pharah for them, is incredibly good at her. Like, watching her is actually so nice. It's just a pleasure watching him play Pharah.
Right.
I recommend that you guys check him out because he's at the next level. But that being said, as Farah, you do have a big job. You are having to constantly put pressure on the enemy team. If you're playing against goats, this job is not too hard to do. You just have to keep in mind that you can't get too far away from your team. You can't be dilly dallying over there. You have to be spot on, always shooting missiles at them, especially at the lobbies. You gotta get some practice with getting some good direct hits. One of the things that will up your damage the most is getting those direct hits, especially after the AoE damage got nerfed a little bit. And having
Which it got
mercy.
buffed this next patch, by the way. So when we get the new
Okay,
patch, it's all gone. So
okay,
you got
good,
some good
good.
news coming.
Good news there. A little bit easier to
Yeah.
hit, but still, you're still looking for those direct hits as much as you can, especially because you're gonna be having mercy on your back. Hopefully, constantly damage boosting you. You can one shot, Zenyatta's. You can one shot Lucio's. You can one shot Anna's. So any of those squishy healers, really easy for you to shut down. And even then, tanks are a huge source of damage for you. You can grab your ultimate so fast. Like if you watch Jinmu playing Pharah, man, he's getting a barrage like every 40 seconds. It's something absurd like that. Because not only the direct hits with damage boosts get you a lot of damage, the AoE around them, especially against goats or a composition that groups up, builds your damage up to insane levels. It's kind of like the same effect as Zarya has, and why she can build grabs so fast when she's playing against goats. Just the AoE
Right.
just nets you.
It's
so
by
much
nature of
damage.
the comp. That's why it works.
Exactly.
And the other cool thing that Jinmu does that most professional players will be doing when they're playing Pharah is they're going to be working a lot of their positioning perpendicular to where teams are playing on the enemy team. So they're basically playing when a team is approaching in a certain direction. They're trying to go at not the direction that they're moving, but the direction that they're moving, like A to B. They're basically perpendicular to that line. And they're also doing this in a way that they are mitigating their own damage or even the enemy visibility on them by weaving tall structures. So if Pharah is a core piece of this argument for this composition of working properly at the highest level, you're going to want to make sure that when you're running this thing and how you're playing Pharah properly, that to play Pharah properly, the map is giving you ways in which you can do that. So where are we seeing this comp, Andres? Because that's really why this comp is working, and working in such a way that they 2-0'd Atlanta on 2CP map both times. So they played on Nepal, Sanctum, and not Sanctum. They played on Village and Shrine, which is the outdoor maps, not the indoor map. It's the only indoor map is the one they didn't play their Pharah on. And then they also played this on... Oh, gosh, I already forgot the other one. They played it a little on Rialto. They played it on point 1 Numbani to capture the point with the Anna. And they also played it on the other 2CP map on Busan on the... Not the city center, but the other one.
Yeah.
Or no, they didn't play it on Busan. They played it on a different map. I'm sorry. But
let's talk about the strengths of the map too, because this composition does have some maps that it doesn't work as well. It's not like just run this composition every time. I think Goats still is the king of that, of being able to run it almost in every map and be okay. But this composition definitely thrives and can definitely kill Goats in certain compositions. The first thing that you need to know is you have to have an open map. Pharah, like we just talked about, is your main source of damage. And if she can't fly free, if she can't just spread her wings and be everywhere she wants, you're going to have a hard time. You need your Pharah to be able to have some space and to be able to be far away enough that she's safe, right? If you're in a very closed kind of zone or a place where she can't fly very far, she can still risk getting shot by Zarya. I mean, even in Goats or Zenyatta or even the Lucio can damage her a lot easier. So it becomes a lot riskier for it. And actually in the more kind of closed maps, we actually saw the Fran kill that Pharah all of the time.
A lot.
It was actually
It
pretty fun
happened.
watching him kill
That's
the
why the
Pharah.
map was 3-2.
Yeah. So not every Zarya is going to be able to do this, but a decent one. If she's close
Yeah.
enough, like your beam reaches far enough, like you can just beam her down if you're fully
Yeah.
charged sometimes.
If you're playing in a map where you are literally hanging fruit for Zarya, then you need to rethink your life choices.
Yeah. Typically, this happens within maps too. For example, in Rialto, they got away with this composition pretty much until the last point where they were forced to swap into goats.
Because they wanted the area, inside.
Yeah, the last area in Rialto is closed. It has a tiny little choke point that makes it really hard. If you're going against goats, trying to get in with this composition in there is like death. Because all of you are very squishy. You can't play frontline, and goats actually has the range to damage you at that point, and speed boost can actually close the gap quite quick in those little rooms. So usually the last point in maps in 2CP is the same when you're playing 2 capture maps. Hanamura, for example, if you're trying to capture point B, this composition doesn't shine quite the best. Or in any of those 2CP maps, you usually want to switch to something that actually does have a front line and a little bit more sustain, right? That you can sit and hold an area for a prolonged period of time. This composition does not do that. Instead, it's trading, being able to hold a location for incredible mobility and incredible damage. So you're just cleaning up and then claiming your spot once they're gone.
Yeah, and the big thing again, we can't emphasize this enough. If you are playing Pharah in a competitive format, and you are playing Pharah without a Mercy, as well as without a Mercy that's going to stick to you, then you lose almost all of your value. And this is going to be something that you will not notice as much until you start climbing higher and higher in SR ranges and or playing in 6v6 formats with better and better teams. You cannot get value from Pharah in, that's the problem with Pharah right now is that, exactly. You have to play it with these specifications in mind. You have to play it with the Mercy. You have to play it with maps where it's good. You have to play it in an environment where you can benefit from a lot of splash damage and landing direct hits. Jinmu would be useless if he's not landing shots. Like what Andra said. Like, not only are you landing splash damage shots, but you're landing shots, period. And then you're able to follow up on things with your barrage. But we got to get past this whole thing because Pharah is a crux piece here. But the real reason that Pharah works is that you have a tank that's creating chaos for her to benefit from. And that's going to be on the back break where I think we have to talk about Hammond and D.Va in almost the same line item because they work so much together, similar to Original Dive with Winston and D.Va.
Sure. Let's talk about that a little bit. Spider-Gird says, would you say this is more for attacking rather than for defending? It seems that it could be punished on defense. And we'll get to that. This composition does work in defense. You just have to play it, again, a little bit different than what you're used to. But yes, we'll get to that in a little bit. But you can use it for defense. Let's talk about tanks. Just a little bit before, Mercy, like we said, a requirement. You need your Mercy with your Pharah because this is what is allowing your Pharah to constantly damage. Like we said at the top of the show, Pharah has to be damaging all of the time. If you're not shooting rockets at somebody for more than 5 seconds, you're already not doing it right. Like, you literally want to be rocketing all the time. If you finish the fight and they're all dead, fly as high as you can and start damaging their spawn. Like, literally start shooting rockets
from spawn.
at their spawn. You want to be shooting rockets literally 24/7 all the time since the match starts. Mercy is what allows you to do this, what allows you to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit riskier. And even if the enemy team is damaging you a little bit, it doesn't even matter, especially if it's goats where the damage is going to be negligible after a certain range. Your Mercy is going to keep you topped off almost all of the time, and you don't have to stop ever.
It doesn't mean that you can fly out in open skies and do whatever the heck you want. You still have to use cover, in the air.
Yeah, still watch out for, them switching to a tactical McCree or, something like that to counter you. But again, that's why you have the Mercy, in case they do switch into a counter like that or a Widow, then you still have your rest. You can still, be doing all that stuff. Let's talk about the tanks, because the reason why Pharah can also keep this constant pressure is because of the tanks. Hammond and Diva, especially Hammond, is there to cause chaos and despair and just annoyance overall. You're constantly diving into them at full speed, knocking them around, especially the Reinhardt. You want to be knocking him all the time, getting him out of position, making them hard to use the shield, right? Like they can't just be hiding behind the shield because their Reinhardt is getting booped or they're getting booped. You're trying to
Yeah.
pile drive on them as often as possible to set up kills for your team. Once you pile drive somebody and you launch them in the air, your Pharah can land rockets on them. Your Sombra can shoot them from the side. There's so many things that can happen
do
to them
anything.
because you're shooting for them at all sides. So immobilizing them and making them fly in predictable patterns, great for your team. One thing that you have to become though is the king of disengages. You have to get real good with your grapple, not only to position yourself or come at them in very unpredictable ways, but also to get the hell out of there very fast because you're going into
Right.
the lion's den, right? You're jumping in probably by yourself a lot of the time. And granted, Hammond has the tools to do this. That's what he's designed for. You're always doing this 24/7. You're never just staying there for more than like 10 seconds, especially if you don't have your shield. Basically, time your dives with your shield. Do you have your shield? Okay, go in, get super aggressive. You don't have your shield? Maybe just do a drive-by, get max speed, boop him around, and get out of there right away. But yeah, you're playing super mobile all of the time, and you're like the big distractor, right? You just don't leave him alone. You're constantly messing with their position. They can't kill you, so you become super annoying. And you use health packs a lot, abuse him.
Definitely keep using that. Gosh dang it, I don't remember the name of the ability. It's the ball shield that you get when you get more shields, the more enemies are around. Using that properly is huge with playing Hammond well, especially now that in the next patch you're going to be able to not have to break your ball form to activate it. Because right now in the league and right now on the current patch, players are going to have to go in with a ball form, seismic slam, pop out a ball, start shooting things and gaining their shield, and then peace out. Because you have to be out of the ball in order to gain the shield before leaving currently. But this will change next patch. You can do it while you're in the ball. So you can literally just start piecing out and then activate your shield as you're leaving.
Yeah, even
So it helps
better
a
for
little
this
bit with your
comp.
peel.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other cool thing is that Diva can actually mitigate a lot of your damage when you're doing the predictable patterns. When you're in the fray, when you're actually landing, when you're doing the spin move, you can actually do all of these things and mitigate the damage of the Diva, as well as protect and peel for your Zenyatta or your Ana. Because Diva is the only hero in this composition that can do that. The only other the reason for a Mercy and a Pharah to be separate is when the Zenyatta and the Ana is basically coming under major fire and going to die. And they have an opportunity of living where it's not a 6v1. Okay, those are the other opportunities that you can flex here. But the Diva is clutch. Diva is literally the best hero for causing and staying in chaos. Diva flexes to anything. She can protect. She can deal lots of damage. She can dive. She can peel. She can piece. She can be in. She can set up a detonation zone. Like she can do literally anything you want. And basically, you at the Hammond and you and the Diva are not only trying to complement each other, but the chaos that you are creating is making your Pharah and your Sombra's jobs so much easier. Because Pharah and Sombra are the heroes that benefit the most when they can just sit there and farm ults and do it freely and not be respected in where their positions are at. As long as you are in the fray and causing damage and chaos and say, look at me, like shoot me, I'm the big one, I'm the threat. As long as that's what they're doing their jobs fine. And even if they're mitigating the damage and not taking it and dodging shots, that's even better because now Sombra and Pharah are not getting shot at, not getting looked at, not even getting considered because they're just farming their ults away. And sometimes you just get to pick and win the fight.
Basically, the job of the tanks is exactly what you just said, is to take away all of the attention of the team towards you as much as you can. The enemy team doesn't really want to target you anyway because you're the hardest to kill, you're the most mobile as Hammond. And Spider's asking again if he's acting more as the initiator or you're waiting for your Farah. No, you're definitely the initiator. Hammond is the guy that leads the charge. If you're full health, go in there, like start pile driving, start slamming them. If you think it's too risky to pile drive because your team is not close enough, then just wait a second. You do want to kind of engage when you know your team is going to be able to, kind of engage a second or two after you. Diva is not as much of an initiator. You definitely don't want to just dive straight into Diva before your Hammond, because you don't have the tools that Hammond does to get in and out. Hammond has such an incredible speed and a massive health pool, and he's usually good to go even against a team of 6 and get out. Diva, you'll probably lose your mech, which is quite detrimental. So you kind of want to wait for your Hammond to go in, then you can follow him and, like Rob said, matrix behind him, try to mitigate damage, keep him safe for as long as you can, and then you can get out of there too. You're a little bit more jack of all trades. Diva's spot historically in this type of composition had been taken by another DPS. But like you said, Diva is so well-rounded, as such an all-star at everything that she does fit in that slot, and she brings more utility than sometimes a DPS can bring, while still bringing that aggressive power. You can still push people with Diva. Somebody is all alone, that Zenyatta got booped somewhere and he's not with his team. Boom, rocket boost to him, and then just missiles, and he's dead. So Diva can capitalize on kills, he can protect your team, he can help protect your Hammond, and more importantly, she's one of the only tanks that can actually keep up with Hammond, right? Maybe her and Winston, but she brings a little bit more utility than Winston. And with EMP, your Diva bomb becomes incredibly lethal, especially against goats. So your toolkit is just really good.
Now, the funny thing to me on this particular comp is a lot of the times, and not saying exclusively, but I'm saying a lot of the times when you're running this composition, you're not really going for any form of environmental kills, which is something that a lot of teams were actually trying to do with a lot of the comps that they've been trying to do, even with goats. Environmental kills are huge when you're running your Lucios or your Divas. You can boot them around. So why is it that that's not actually a major piece of this? Is because of the chaos. Like moving people where you want them to be, or moving people in a way that they can't control themselves. Like basically you can set up a Farah barrage and then boot people into it while it's happening. With Farah, while Farah's doing this, she's immobile, but you can basically mobilize the enemy team into the play. Or you can do the thing and then move them to a play with EMP, like you EMP, move them in. But like the value of this is making sure that you're not losing ultimate economy. So a lot of the times you can basically just outright win fights with EMP. And another thing. So the idea is you're combining EMP and Farah barrage a lot of the times, and then you're using other things like EMP bomb or such and such in this. So it's basically you're just trading two ultimates into a fight to win the economy. So again, you have to keep in mind you have all of these play things that you're doing, but then when you start getting in the upper echelon of play and getting better into this composition, now you have to start thinking about when you're going to use things, not just what you're going to use, but when you're going to use, how much are you going to implement in here. And then the X factor with the one team that's basically been able to make this at the highest level is when and where and how they're utilizing their Ana and utilizing their Zenyatta. Because Ana basically has an ultimate in a grenade that she can use every couple seconds, and then has basically a way to save somebody with the nano boost and mitigate damage most often. And sometimes you can nano the Farah and do some crazy stuff, but that's kind of a side benefit. The other is that Zenyatta is giving you even more damage where you can catch people out when you can kind of just get lucky. And also you can keep an extra heal going on somebody and get a transcendence when you guys are getting in big trouble. So we have a couple questions from Spider again in the chat and asking, I've been working on learning Hammond, and what is the queue to go in? As well as me saying in the chat, Hammond's the queue. he's the guy to look for. If he's doing something, then everyone else is following. In addition, he says, so is he the aggressor, Farah's the damage, and Sombra's the cleanup? And I said, well, maybe. Andres, what do you think about this before I kind of comment on that?
Yeah, I think he's right. Hammond is the initiator. That Farah is your main damage. You have to be constantly damaging with her. Actually, in this composition, ultimates are usually used as they come. You're not trying to
Yeah,
like combo too many. In fact, the way Jinmu was playing on Pharah, when he was getting barrage, he was basically using it on the spot, and he was
because of
using it
how
in a
fast you
very,
get it.
yeah, he was using it in a very interesting way of kind of at a far distance. Like I haven't seen too many Farahs use the barrage so far away. He's like mid range almost with it. And it works because
Huh.
again he's going against in mobile comps. And even if he just gets 1 kill or 2 kills, that's good enough for him, especially because they're huge kills, right? You're killing a Reinhardt, you're killing
Right.
maybe Asaria or something like that. Heroes with a huge health pool. And then if you get maybe a squishy on top of that, like good for you. But yeah, you're getting those barrages so fast that you're just kind of using them as they come. Same with EMP. If you get EMP, boom, just do it. Get your team in there, damage them. Um, let's talk about Sombra though, because Sombra is your secondary damage. She doesn't get quite as much damage in as Pharah does just by the nature of the hero,
Right.
but she brings so much utility and the utility that your team needs. You're disabling the defensive cooldowns of the enemy, and especially if you take out the Reinhardt shield, if you disable the Zenyatta when he has transcendence, like that's huge, right? EMP basically takes away all of that plus shields, and that's just like the dream for your Pharah, for your Hammond, for your Diva that can
Mm-hmm.
actually then get in there and get those kills real quick. You can get a grenade in there real fast if you're playing Ana in the composition. Sombra is just like the enabler, right? And not only that, she plays an important role, which I also call the backstabbing role. While your Hammond is distracting them, while your Pharah is shooting at them from the sky, you find kind of like their back, and that's where you appear from, and then you start attacking them from there. So like the Zenyatta's in trouble, their Ana's in trouble. If the Lucio gets hacked, then he's in trouble. You can hack the Rhine shield from the back. The Zarya before she uses her shields, if you hack her, man, that's huge too. Um, so you're
A lot of
constantly
times
looking.
people are hacking the Zaryas instead of the Reinhardts when you're throwing in the Diva Bomb because they can protect 2 targets in case the Reinhardt gets displaced. So
Yeah,
if you're getting rid of that for a Zarya that's saving their bubbles, then that can be pretty big.
the Diva Bomb and the EMP is actually very clutch. We were practicing this composition on Friday, and we were able to pull it off a couple of times where I was like, okay, throw your Diva Bomb first. So they would throw
And then you
the Diva
EMP.
Bomb, and I would be positioned right behind them. And it's hilarious how many people get super cocky around the Diva Bomb because they think they have their cooldown. So the Ryan just stands there, pulls up his shield. The Saria is like literally just standing there, and
They're
she's just
waiting
waiting.
for it.
Yeah, she's just waiting for it to activate her shield so she can get the energy. But you're just sitting behind him like, no, 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 no. And as soon as that Diva Bomb is about to explode, you EMP and bam! Like 3 of them die.
It's basically it's the whole Yu-Gi-Oh meme where it's like, ah, you activated my trap card. Oh, yeah, you activated my trap card. And it's like,
basically,
ah.
basically, you give him this false sense of security, and then you squash it with Sombra.
Yeah, basically, because people are kind of submitted into this format where they know what they're doing, and Sombra's like, no way that's gonna work now.
Yep.
But the other cool thing that I love about Sombra in this comp is the flexibility that she brings. Because you're basically just this constant gnat like the previous form of dive had in Tracer. You will have less overall total damage, but you're having way more utility with what you can present to the table and disrupt while things are going on. And then further, the other cool thing is that when 2 of the heroes that are main meta pieces, I guess you could say, or even like really powerful engines and making the team comps work these days is revolving around Zenyatta and Zarya. Those are the 2 heroes, like pretty much at large, that Sombra is the best at dealing damage because you get a free 150 damage on an EMP on a Zen, and you get a free 200 damage on a Zarya just from hitting them because their shields are going down. They're gone completely. And in a meta where the shields actually are currently in Overwatch League, they're over the armor. They get benefit from armor longer than any other hero, and that's why Sombra's being even more powerful there. When we get to the next patch, where they're basically going to jump a couple patches for the next stage in professional play. They're going to kind of catch up where armor's moved over, armor's mitigated differently, and then we're going to have Baptiste. We're going to have all these new changes and shifts in the meta, or maybe not in the meta, but maybe overall in just how heroes can be evaluated, I guess you could say, for pro play. This comp, I think, is just going to get better, and that's kind of why we're really talking about it today. Is this comp loses nothing moving forward. Loses absolutely nothing. The only thing that they're going to be losing out on is target practice. Like, the targets may change.
Well,
So,
actually, I was gonna say they might be losing their strongest suit, and that is that goats is not gonna be as good anymore. And that's
I mean, yeah,
basically what they're
they're
losing.
prey.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
prey.
they're,
Yeah,
they're next in line in the food chain, right? So,
yeah. So
you never know.
this comp is by no means uncounterable. Actually, good dive compositions or stuff like that, I think could be strong against it, or
Mhm.
compositions that also utilize a lot of mobility, but maybe, use a Winston that can actually pressure all these squishies
Yeah,
or
you kill the honor, you kill the Zen in the back. That's kind of how you do it.
yeah,
You get him
exactly.
down to 5, and then you just beat him.
Yeah, the reason you get
So,
away this composition with going with La Zen or an Ana with no frontline is because you have nobody to push you. But if the meta is different, I don't know if this composition might go through some changes. I think it's still really strong, and like I said, against static compositions, this composition is amazing as long as you have the space, right? We already talked about closed encounters or maps with very little verticality. Not the best for Farah.
yeah.
Um,
Something that you'll have to remember is that Goat's meta is all about getting ultimates and rotating them in effective positions, right? This particular meta, like this particular composition, like Andres was saying, is all about using stuff as you get them because you get them fast, and then not really worrying too much about the economy that's left
and
over.
keeping up the aggression. This composition is all about keeping up the aggression. You're not trying to be
Pressure.
passive at any point, and because you're not playing frontline, you have to make sure that you're getting it value in other places, right? To not allow the team to get ground for a long time. And let's talk about that because that's exactly how you defend it with this composition. I know we were getting asked a little bit earlier, can this
Right.
work for defense? And it can. The only thing is that you have to be hyper aggressive, which is usually bad news for the latter, especially with an uncoordinated team.
Right.
Because sometimes when people say go aggressive, they go aggressive like 100% nonstop.
Well, they're
And
all in.
yeah, all in. And if you die on defense, well, you kind of done it good, like that's it for
Hmm.
you. If you lose your Hammond and you lose your Diva, you're not contesting the point with this composition at all.
Right.
Especially Hammond, because Diva can sometimes lose her mech quite easily. Hammond is your true point contester, and if he's gone, nobody else in this comp is contesting. You probably lose the point, so not the
Yeah.
best at defense. But if you're playing it right, and again, you're poking in and out, causing disruption, and the most important thing is that you cause this aggression and disruption before the enemy can get to the
Can
point.
get organized. Yeah.
Yeah, before they can get the ground that they want to fight on, especially if you're going against
Precisely.
Ghost. Again, Goats, if you're watching Chengdu Hunters play against Atlanta, the second they get out of a spawn, Chengdu is on top of them. They're not even letting them get to the point and get set up to start getting percentage. By
They're
the
looking for
time
picks immediately.
immediately, by the time they get to the point, they usually had lost like one or two people, and at that point, then you could overwhelm him and clean him up at the point when you have the numbers advantage. But you can't take like a head-on battle. And if Goats gets to the point and starts contesting it, you will probably lose some of the percentage, if not control of the point, right? Unless you can kill him really fast. So that's why you want to be hyper aggressive before they get there. Your best chance is when they're walking towards it, because again, Goats has almost no mobility aside from speed boost. They have no verticality. So your Pharah can be literally on top of them, nonstop fighting them, Hammond just
Hmm.
disrupting them. So yeah, you have to fight off the point basically. And if they do get to the point and you need to buy time, Hammond is your guy,
You have
and he
CC
doesn't.
for days.
Yeah, you don't have to be on the point all the time, right? Like remember that you can let him get some percentage. There's checkpoints in it. As long as they don't get the checkpoints, you're good. If you have to give up one checkpoint in order for you to not die, that's okay. That is better than like losing your Hammond and then there's no contesting. At that point, it's like, okay, that's it. The point is lost. Your Hammond needs to
Mm,
be able to go in and out. Hopefully, with your Diva, if you can alternate with them, that is great. I know that's sometimes too much to ask in the ladder, but just keep that in mind when
right.
you're playing this composition.
Now, something that I wanted to highlight too, to kind of give a little bit more context to how this works on defense, is kind of old school. What would happen with compositions when we had the old build of Horizon Lunar Colony? A lot of the teams would actually set up top and then kind of like go back and retreat on that little side room and wait. Then the enemy team who was attacking on point A of Horizon would run into the point and it would start ticking up. And so the defensive team would crash onto the point and cause chaos instantly. They would basically just use that room as a hiding point to mitigate all damage and then running in and playing aggressive from some sort of position. They have a way to play aggressive while waiting, is kind of the idea. So with this, the composition is a little bit different because Andres highlighted one of the major points is you're basically waiting for them to spawn and get out of spawn and then you catch them. Or you can run it the other way where you get to a point where you can hide and then catch them before they can get to the point. And then when you do get into an environment in a 2CP setup or especially in a control setup, you can rotate and you can just stall for an eternity with this composition. You've got Sombra touching, you've got your ball can just constantly get in and out. Wrecking ball, same thing with your Farah and Mercy. You're basically just pushing people away and touching the point, going back in the sky. You have all ways of just continually stalling the point. It's quite nuts. So just when you're playing this, remember that this is non-traditional Overwatch. You have to play super aggressive, and you should play with people that will listen to whoever is playing Hammond, because that's kind of what's going to be the back-breaking part
Hammond
of
is an
this.
important part of this composition. You definitely want to have a very good Farah and a decent Hammond, or a very good Hammond. If you have those two, you you will be able to do things. If your Hammond is really weak and nobody in your team can really play Hammond, I suggest maybe trying something else because he will probably die a lot. This composition requires like that aggressiveness and mobility. If you're not quite sure with your grapples and you miss
Mm.
him a lot, you get yourself into weird positions that you didn't intend to get with Hammond, you will probably die a lot. And at that point, it might be better to switch to a tank that can hold its ground a little bit more. Because yeah, he's quite important in this composition. I would say that he is required. Same with Farah and Mercy. The rest of the people in this comp just fit really well with this playstyle. Like if you're trying to bring in um, Baptiste or you're trying to bring in a Mora into this comp, they're not really going to fit. Their skill set or their skills don't really apply too much to how this comp plays. You're gonna have a really hard time healing anyone because everyone's just gonna be running around the
Splitting up
place.
and leaving, and yeah.
Exactly. So especially with Baptiste, like you're just not gonna do anything with this composition. So
Right.
some heroes definitely don't fit in here. And those are and the ones that we mentioned are the most important ones.
Now, a cool thing is that this composition has kind of precipitated another one, which is the 3-2-1 that they've been playing. We're not going to be talking about this ad nauseum, but what we will say is that if you kind of look at what is being played in this meta, which is goats, three supports and three tanks, and then you look at the variations of goats, which is usually three supports, two tanks, and then something replacing the diva on DPS, a 3-2-1 version of that, as well as what Chengdu's playing in the 2-2-2 format with the pharmacy, you can see how they've kind of hybridized this into a new version of both of them. So instead of playing a Reinhardt, they run a Hammond. They're still running their Diva. So what they're doing is they're basically running the 3-3 comp, and they're saying we really like running Diva, and we're okay with compensating on our Zarya instead, if we have the mobility to back it up. So they're going to run Hammond and Diva and sacrifice the immobile Zarya damage for the value of the utility that Sombra brings. So that's what they're running. They're basically saying we're going to run the same GOATS healers that we have, which is the Briggs and Lucio, and then we're going to run in Diva with that. So that's your core 4, and then we're going to swap 2 pieces out that we like or that we're really good at playing together with or playing together around. And another key thing that we haven't talked about is that X Factor hero yet. That's the last piece of the puzzle, right, Andres? Which is the Zen Ana. We haven't really talked about that too much.
And yeah, we haven't touched on that one too much. This one has been interesting from Chengdu. Like we've said before, variations of this comp have appeared before, especially in control maps in the Overwatch League, and have been played by other teams. In fact, Atlanta was playing this composition against Serrano a few weeks ago, but they usually did not bring in a healer. They would usually just bring in 3 DPS. Like we said, it was either like a Widowmaker or a Tracer sometimes. Chengdu has been the one that's been kind of like pushing this second healer agenda over here. And it actually works really well based on the meta. We've already said it before. Usually the Zen or the Ana have very little to no pressure because nobody's playing dive or nobody's playing heroes that can actually, punish lonely backline heroes like Tracer or Genji. The most you get sometimes is Sombra, but then again, Sombra is not like the biggest threat for these heroes sometimes.
Right.
That being said, you get a lot of space. Basically your team is buying you a ton of space by just being super aggressive in the front line, attacking them from all angles. Zenyatta and Ana can actually heal the heroes that they're playing with. The Ferris in the sky, you throw the orb at her. You shoot a little heal at her. The Hammond or the Diva are super far away. Same kind of concept. Same with your Sombra. So even though this team composition is relying on health packs and kind of a little bit more individualistic, you're not hoping to get healed as much from your healers because your Mercy is always busy. But Zenyatta and Ana do bring a little bit more sustainability, if that makes sense. And then when you get Nano Boost or you get Transcendence, that's actually a big, big boost to your survivability that buys you a pseudo frontline, right? Like if you can Transcendence, then your Diva and your Hammond can actually stay there for a prolonged period of time.
You have a counter to Graviton mistakes, basically.
Yeah, you do have a counter to Graviton too, although we'll touch on that a little bit. But basically, Transcendence is used a little bit differently in this composition. You're not using it to counter ultimates as much, but you're using it to keep the pressure up, right? When you're about to run out of cooldowns, but you need to still contest the point for some reason, boom, Transcendence comes in clutch. Same with Nano Boost. Your Hammond's about to die, but you need him to be on point. Boom, Nano Boost right over there. Or, just extra aggression, extra damage that also comes in handy. The reason why I say Transcendence is not as important to counter ults in this composition is because this composition, one of their strengths is already that it's very hard to get a value Shatter, to get a value Graviton from it because nobody is really staying together. Yeah, and everyone's just kind of everywhere. So you might be able to get like one. Actually, in the Atlanta match versus Chengdu, we actually saw the Fran single Graviton the Hammond at one point.
Which was a good play.
It was a good play because literally he was not going to get any more value out of that thing, and taking the Hammond out of the fight actually buys you enough time
Shuts down the comp.
Yeah, they can't contest the point anymore. So that was like good enough. So keep that in mind. You're not very vulnerable to Gravitons, Shatters, or any of those like AoE ultimates that usually do give goats a lot of trouble, right? You're kind of you're immune to them almost by nature. Like Pharah, like if you get shattered with a Pharah, like what are you doing? Like why were you there?
Yeah, there's kind of a misnomer with Zen too on something you mentioned as not being as important, and I totally agree. Like with the things, basically, you're just trying to sustain your pressure. You're trying to keep it going. But if you get into moments where you're making mistakes, that's where Ana and Zen are there for.
Yes.
Like you have the Diva to help you, sure. You have the hack to help you, sure. But the big boo-boo killers you're going to be your big healers. Are going to be your Ana. It's going to be your grenade. It's going to be your Transcendence, right? And additionally, it helps sustain the pressure when you can trance and also put an orb on something for damage. Zen's damage orb is the nuts for this comp because you're
Yeah,
basically giving your Sombra and your Pharah that's already damage boosted, again, even more damage and even more ultimate charge. So you're
exactly.
basically giving your entire team more ultimate charge by damage boosting something that everyone is shooting. And it's a
Transcend
lot of damage.
Discord Orb and the grenade are both like
Yeah, the grenade as
huge
well.
are huge offensive abilities that they're just enabling your team to be getting those picks and be even more aggressive, right? Like
Yeah.
goats without any heal, it's rough. If you can get like
Mhm.
the nade in one of the tanks or in the back line, like that your
Yeah,
fair is
you
gonna
can
have a
set up
field
all
day.
of these things with the hack, like just the hack.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that does happen on the back of the hack because when you're Sombra hacking something and it happens to be a Rhine shield, everything's open to basically the club is open. Okay?
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
throw a
Come on
grenade
in.
in. Come on in, the water's fine, right? You can throw the grenade. You can pick your poison. You can put whatever Discord target you like. It's all on the counter. Here you go. It's a buffet of damage, okay? Like you can just choose what you like. Would you like a Brigida on the house? Yes, yes, please. Okay?
Yeah,
You can.
exactly.
But yeah,
Well,
enough memes. Like this comp is nuts, man. And the other cool thing that I'm really looking forward to with this composition is that 222 is kind of like giving us some new options moving into the next patch. Because this comp is kind of saying, look, there is a way to play in a GOATS meta and actually have some realm of success even at the highest level of play.
I
But
do love
in
that about
addition,
this comp because I think you're right. Sorry, keep going.
no, I was just saying like you can see this comp giving players a hint and kind of a peek behind the curtain of what's possible moving in forward. Like when all of these buffs and changes would go out, 222 is full open season. Like you could go back to more of a standard move A to B comp and then run a couple mobility heroes and mix and match. You just have to figure out what works together in a new format with all of these new damage changes, and then you're introducing a new hero into the mix.
Yeah, there's so many changes that are coming that honestly, I'm super excited. I'm waiting for the new patch, but this composition is a type of answer that happens after you've had a defined meta for a while.
For a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've talked about this in the show before, and it usually doesn't happen often in Overwatch because there's so many balance changes, introductions to new heroes that
Right.
the experimentation phase kind of like happens quite often. But
Mhm.
for the first time in a while, Goats has been the first composition that's been a mainstay for like this long. Maybe aside from Dive, the old Dive, but I would say like at this point, Goats is even like more iconic. You know what I mean? Like everyone is running Goats.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been like that for a while, and it's actually pretty fun to watch a team that kind of has cracked the meta, right? They're not the number one team, yet they keep winning against some of the better teams. They keep stealing maps
Or putting up
from
map
them.
wins. Yeah.
Yeah. And to be fair, not a lot of the teams get to practice against that type of composition because they're all playing against goats. Maybe if they had time to practice it, then goats would come out on top again. But that being said, it's putting them at odds and it's showing them like there are some cracks in your gameplay over here, and these people are taking advantage of it using heroes that are not you know traditionally deemed like the most meta, but it's working out really well. So I like that meta evolution. And we'll see how things go after this new patch. I do think that a lot of things are going to change. With Baptiste getting added, all these balance changes. But we'll see. I think that this is a really fun comp all in all. It's been a pleasure watching it in Overwatch League. I hope that we keep seeing some more of these cool compositions, some more variety there in DPSs and stuff. Watching a Pharah is just so fun to me, and same with the Sombra. Let's hope to see some more McCreasy and some more Genji, and I'll be a happy man.
Yeah, I'm always happy to see more Pharah. I know that I said this a little while back, but I mean, Pharah is becoming one of my main tools in my arsenal these days, and it's kind of sad not to be able to play her. So I really like playing her when I can. and it's good to not be on the mercy end for a change. 'Cause
Yeah.
that's where I
And it's
was
good
on the
and it's
back
good
end
to
of that
see
for a
her
while.
on maps that are not traditional Farah maps. And
Right.
working,
Yeah.
right? That's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
I'm curious to see how this composition is played with Paris in the mix, and if Paris is gonna make it to the map mix next round. I'm very, very curious to see how that's gonna pan out, because I feel like Paris is such a non-traditional setup to what we kind of hold true to be to capture point or assault maps, and as a whole, it's kind of like a sneak peek to giving us some ideas on what we can do there. I'm also really excited to look forward to some more time with this map in the meta, or this map in the composition. Or sorry, we've been talking way too long. This map in the rotation for having it introduced into competitive mode, so that we can actually get some streamers on the show and do a map mastery on it. Because I feel like we still don't have enough time on this map to figure out what's good yet.
Yeah, we
It's
need
very, very new.
some more time in Paris. But hopefully you guys enjoyed the discussion on the Chengdu 222. It's a great composition. If you guys get a chance to try it on the ladder, I definitely would give it a try. I have given it a try. We're like back and forth. Some maps it was very dominant. Some other maps, we struggle a little bit more. But I think it was more
Yep.
because we're not used to playing it like that, and we don't have like the best Hammond player in the world. Like nobody in our group of friends has really dedicated themselves to Hammond, which is quite key in this composition. But if you guys have a good Hammond friend, call him over and be like, dude, I got the comp for you. Let's hit the ladder. Let's try it. It's super entertaining. Also, Spider, thank you so much for the 100 bits. It's a pleasure answering all your questions over here. If you guys want to ask questions live on the show, you can always catch the show on Twitch. We love to interact with you guys, and actually, I think it makes a better show when you have people asking you questions, because you get some feedback of what some listeners are gonna think about on the discussion. So we
Right.
love when you guys do that. It makes the show a little bit more interactive for us too.
And please remember to support us on Patreon, like the lovely folks at the Diamond level have done, as well as our brand new patron this week, Kenneth G. Thank you so much for that. We have Diamond sponsors to thank: Shazir, Top Score Solutions, Crimson Fail, Benny and the Jets, Brendan D, Refire, Roger B, Christoplay, and Tragic Zach. We do have quite a bit of drop off lately with our top level, but don't worry, because we have some really cool rewards for people not at the top level. If you want to jump on that train, remember, we're doing VOD reviews in a little bit different way. Like we announced at the top of the show, we're going to try to see if we can schedule times with our $2.50 patrons per episode. If you guys want to jump on that wagon, please jump in the Discord if you have more questions. You can find any information that you're looking for at our website, omniclab.com/links. You can find us on Spotify now. You can also find Andres on Twitter at I Play Games, IPLAI Games, and myself at Not Rob on Twitter and Instagram. Please come hang out in our Discord. The link is in the description of the video, as well as the description of the podcast. We will see you next week. And remember, not all oh wow, I almost did a sign off for a previous show. Don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We will see you next week, and be good to each other out there. And hit some people with those wrecking balls.
Wrecking ball.
It's been a long, long week. It's been 10 days, in fact.
10 days. I'm glad that we could finally record. I missed this.
I miss you guys.
Thanks, Never Clutch. Thanks for stopping by. You guys are super awesome. Shaz, as always, thank you so much for stopping by. Spider, you too.
Never
Yakamaka.
Clutch. Good seeing you again.
Yakamaka coming with a subscription. Thank you very much.
You must learn for yourself.
We will see you guys next week, hopefully, on the weekend. See if we can get you in there. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.